Hello, and in today's video we're doing an interesting one-off FPL video, and in today's weird FPL video, of course, don't worry, I'll be coming out with my Game Week 2 deadline stream at 6:15 when the deadline is for match week number 2. Of course, that Friday night kickoff between Nottingham Forest and Sheffield United to lock in our teams for the second week. And of course, in that Game Week 2 team selection, I'll be going through a few things. I'll be going through how I get on at Fantasy Football Fest last weekend on the Friday night. Obviously, it was Burnley versus Man City, a 3-0 Man City win. How did I find Fest? Did I enjoy it? And what was my Game Week 1 like? What did I get in my Game Week 1 score? How many players in my team scored goals and assists? And how many points did I get? And what is my current rank going into Game Week 2? And all of that lovely stuff. And my selection, possible transfers for Game Week 2. You can catch all of that, as I said, 6:30 tomorrow. But I thought before I do show you my Game Week 2 team, I just thought I'd go back down a bit of an FPL nostalgia trip. And, I love my nostalgia, so I thought it's about time we go there. And, as the 2023-24 FPL season is well underway now, I thought it'd be time to just recap what got us to this point and what are the history of FPL point scorers. So what I've done in this one is I've got to give credit to All About FPL. Thank you very much for your sources here. So this is all from All About FPL. But I've had a look at, using their thread, they had put together the teams, the best dream teams of every FPL season. And then consequently, what is the overall best dream team of all the seasons, right? So that's a best dream team in terms of, for any given season, what was the highest scoring 11 of players that you could make in an FPL team of all time, not just of each season. So yeah, this is going to be an exciting one. I hope you do enjoy it. Smash a like on the video, comment down your thoughts. Who are some players I've missed out? Obviously, this is just the highest scoring, but of course there's many other underdogs that won't be mentioned. Your likes of Lundströms that will go down in cult history for FPL managers. The likes of Mishu, who obviously was wrongly classified as a midfielder in the game. The likes of Harry Kane, of course, who in this first season, I do believe, was a stupid price of about 4.55 million. So yeah, it is amazing, the amount of players in recent years that have become legends in this fantasy football game. And the game did, of course, start properly FPL, official FPL, in 2002 to 3. Funnily enough, the year I was born, 2003. So yeah, I came around when things got interesting. But yeah, at the end of the day, it is a very, very addictive game, and that is why we're going to just look through some nostalgia. So starting off with the inaugural FPL season, 2002 to 3, what was the dream team? Well, of course, Man United won it that year, but this dream team would have scored you, if you'd have had this team in an FPL that season, 1,975 points. Now, that doesn't actually sound like a lot, because these days, players to win FPL have to have usually more than 2,000, usually around 2,300, 2,400 points. Sometimes in some seasons even more than that. So yeah, 1,975, it doesn't sound like a lot, but back in that day, there was not a lot of players playing the game in 2002 to 3. So who was the team of that season? Well, I can tell you that in goal it was Brad Friedel, of course, the Blackburn Rovers legend. He always got those save points and may or may not have got a few assists in there as well, if I remember rightly. And whether or not he was one of those goalkeepers, those rare goalkeepers that ended up getting a goal at the other end. We know that Peter Schmeichel definitely did that. We know the likes of Asmir Begovic did. But whether Friedel was on that list as well, I'm not quite sure. But he certainly had a great 02-03 season, 187 points, unbelievable. And Brad Friedel, we might just see once again later on. Then in the defence, we had a back three of Hippier for Liverpool, 151 points for him. Silvestre for Manchester United, 141. And then completing that back three, William Gallas at Chelsea, 138 points. He was a great FPL option, and that was a very, very solid back three there. Midfield four, though, we had Kewell for Leeds United, 182 points. Ryan Giggs, of course, the assist machine, 172 points that FPL season 02-03. Then Paul Scholes, of course, scored so many goals for Manchester United, 186 points in FPL for him. And then, of course, the FPL legend, Frank Lampard, 167 points. That wasn't even his best FPL season, but an amazing one still, with him taking so many penalties and free kicks, etc. So, yeah, Lampard was brilliant, and that midfield, very, very solid. Then we had a front three of Beattie from Southampton, 192 points, very, very good indeed. Then, of course, the king, Thierry Henry, 271 points in 02-03. What a season he had. And then joining him for Manchester United, Ruud van Nistelrooy, 188 points. So a very strong team there in 02-03. Then we move on to 03-04. This team would have scored you 2,030, so a little bit more than 02-03. Of course, the year that Arsenal won the title and were famously dubbed the Invincibles that year. So you can, imagine a few Arsenal players featuring in this one. In goal, we had a very interesting, team at the time. But Van der Sar, 171 points for Van der Sar. I mean, look, he got lots of save points. That was mainly what it was down to. But Van der Sar was a fantastic goalkeeper in the Premier League. And, it's only fair that he's here at one point in the teams of the season. So Edwin van der Sar, of course, known his time at Ajax, but obviously more famously at Manchester United. This was, of course, the 03-04 season, so it was whilst he was actually not playing for them, Manchester United, it was in the colour of Fulham, but he did very well for Fulham, and a very good season for him. Then in the back three, we've got, once again, you see Sami Hyypiä there again. He got a lot of FPL points, did the Liverpool defender, 168 that season. Then we have Wayne Bridge for Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. Wayne Bridge did the business, 153 points for him. And then, of course, John Terry, who did actually come up with quite a few goals as a centre-back, got a lot of FPL points, 155 in 03-04. Then the midfield four, once again, we have Malbranque for Fulham. I mentioned Van der Sar, but it was a great season for Fulham that year, and Malbranque, 194 points. Fantastic. Once again there we see Ryan Giggs, he just racked in those assists, 163 points. Then we've got, of course, the legend for Arsenal that, to be honest, like when people talk about Henry, obviously we know how good this guy is, but Robert Perez was also a joke of a player. I mean, it does say there peers for some reason, so a bit of a spelling mistake there. But of course, Robert Perez was unbelievable, and 163 points for Giggs. You think that can be topped? Well, how about 216 from Robert Perez that season? So unbelievable. Then, of course, we have Frankie Boy Lampard. What a season! 216 points, exactly the same as Perez, but an unbelievable campaign for the Chelsea man, the Chelsea talisman, Mr. Chelsea. He was just becoming a joke of an FPL asset at this point. And then we had another front three, this time though, of the legend, Alan Shearer. Yes, he does feature in FPL as much as he was in the early stages of the Premier League era. He did feature for Newcastle, 185 points that season. Very, very reliable. Then Thierry Henry with another absolutely outrageous FPL season. 242 points. He absolutely smashed it in the Invincibles year. And then, of course, Louis Zaha for Manchester United, 167 points. Very good for them. And that was the team for 03-04. Moving on to 04-05 now. So here it is. The champions, of course, were Chelsea. Petr Cech was in goal. Of course, he did very well for Chelsea, and so that made sense. But let's not forget that team. Now, Petr Cech obviously was brilliant in his time at Arsenal as well, but he also had a stint at Chelsea. So this 04-05 season, he was still at Chelsea, but it does say it looks like it says Fly Emirates there, so I'm not sure if that's quite right. But yeah, he was in goal for Chelsea in that season. And yeah, very good season for him. A debut season, I'm pretty sure, because he joined in 2004. So yeah, 178 points for Petr Cech, really good. John Terry is there again. You can see he's becoming a bit of a recurring theme here in 04-05. 2018 points this team would have scored. 196 for John Terry. Then John Arnorisa for Liverpool, scored a few bangers, of course, and did get 160 FPL points that year. And then there he is again, William Gallas, 150 FPL points in that back three. We move in again, and now we've got our midfield five we're talking about now. So here it is again, Robert Perez, 174 points. Lampard with a joke of a season, 269 FPL points. What a season for him. Paul Scholes comes back again, 159 points. And then a bit of a surprise inclusion, it has to be said, but Stuart Downing, I mean, what an FPL season he had in 04-05. I mean, no one probably saw it coming, but yeah, he was just absolutely superb that season for the team. Of course, that at the time, you think, it's Middlesbrough, they're not going to break any, boundaries or look amazing, but they really were in 04-05. And so, yeah, 159 points. And then we have Michael Duff there as well. Michael Duff, the Chelsea man, had a very good FPL season, it's got to be said. Yeah, very, very good indeed. And he just, oh no, I say Michael Duff, that's the guy that's currently the head coach of Swansea City, so I apologise. Damien Duff is what I meant. Yeah, Damien Duff for Chelsea, of course. Very, very good FPL season in that season for Chelsea. 2004-05, a lot of points and 159 in FPL. Then in the front two, we had Thierry Henry once again. I mean, this guy was just becoming a joke of an FPL asset because once again, amazing season for him. I mean, it was just unbelievable. 231 points. And then next to him, we there have Andrew Johnson. He had a great FPL season, 183 points in 04-05. Moving swiftly on to 05-06, of course, Chelsea were the champions yet again. And there we go. Once again, we see Edwin van der Sar, this time playing for Manchester United with 168 FPL points. And if this team, you'd have had it, 2,049 would have been how many you scored. So it keeps creeping up that number. Then we see Rio Ferdinand feature, 165 points, picked up a few goals, and obviously got those bonus points. Then we also have, the likes of Terry and Gallas yet again in that Chelsea defence. Chelsea at this point were just absolutely bossing it. I mean, it was just unbelievable, really. So there, yeah, you've got also in the defence, as I said, a back four. Steve Finnan did very well for Liverpool. Did Steve Finnan. I always thought when I saw pictures of Steve Finnan, he looked loads like Jamie Carragher. He wasn't, I can assure you. But yeah, Steve Finnan, very good for Liverpool. 170 FPL points. And as I say, with Gallas and Terry, 175 for Gallas, 184 for Terry. And then that midfield three, Steven Gerrard, Stevie G, this is where he really came of age in 05-06. 196 FPL points. An absolute wonderful season for the player for Liverpool. Then Lampard, guess what? He's back again. 222 stonking FPL points. Incredible. And then you can also see there for Blackburn Rovers, it was incredible, really. But of course, Pedersen was just a great player for them. Morten Gamst Pedersen with 168 FPL points in that season. And then the front three, we've got Darren Bent, of course. He really did excel in his time at Charlton with 184 FPL points. I mean, that was really a crazy one. You think about it. Charlton didn't think that they would do that well. But in 05-06, he certainly did that. 184 points. Then there again is Ruud van Nistelrooy with 198 FPL points. And then finally, again, the king is back. 239 points for Thierry Henry. Outrageous. Right, let's move on to the 06-07 season then. So this year, it was Manchester United that wrapped up the trophy. And in goal, we had, of course, David James at Portsmouth. So, yeah, he did very well, David James. Obviously, went around clubs, one of those clubs being Watford, of course. But he had a little spell at Portsmouth. And that was really a good season for him in FPL. 173 points. This team would have scored 2004. And then next to him, talking of Portsmouth, Matty Taylor was a great FPL sensation in 06-07 because he scored loads of worldies. It was just unbelievable for a defender. 164 FPL points there. Then we've got Joleon Lescott of Everton, 164 points as well. So you can see a trend here. And then next to him, Jamie Carragher of Liverpool, 163 FPL points. I don't think Carragher scored that many goals for Liverpool, but he must have just racked in the clean sheets and maybe a few bonus points and maybe a 1 or 2 assists here and there. Then the midfield was again a midfield 5. Cesc Fabregas, 182 FPL points. Lampard, 202. And then the coming of the legend in red, Ronaldo, 100 200, I should say, and 44 FPL points in 06-07 was just unbelievable. What a debut season I think that was for Ronaldo. 244, you just never seen anything like it. Gerrard, 180 FPL points in that season, and also Mikel Arteta in the blue of Everton, 178 FPL points. Then we had the front two of Didier Drogba for Chelsea, of course, 170 FPL points, and then Wayne Rooney for Manchester United, 184 FPL points for Wayne Rooney. Now, moving on to the next team, it's 07-08. United were champions yet again. This team would have been much, much higher in terms of point scoring. A massive upgrade from the last season. 2,138 FPL points was a lot. And once again, we see for back-to-back seasons, he's got David James in goal, playing for Portsmouth. And this was his time where he really shone at Portsmouth in 07-08. 167 FPL points, just a bit less than last time, but still very good. Then the back three for this FPL team of the season. Of course, Rio Ferdinand is back there again. He did have a good period for Manchester United around that time. And, as I say, Man United winning the league, he certainly did do well, got those FPL points. And then you can also see there Martin Lawson for Aston Villa, 163 points in that 7-8 season. And then Lescott back there again for Everton with an amazing 196 FPL points. For a defender, that is definitely special. He had quite a few goals and quite a few points that season. Now we move into the midfield four of Ronaldo. There again, you thought last FPL season was good for him. Then 283 points. And I'm pretty sure that was a season of the iconic Portsmouth free kick. But what a season it was. 283 points. Then Fabregas with 205 points for Arsenal. Then Gerrard again comes back again with even better points than last season. 200 FPL points. Incredible. And then Gareth Barry, of all people, yes, he got loads of points for Aston Villa in the season of 07-08. 178 points for Gareth Barry, who was often known for his appearance points, but did actually get quite a few points that season. And then the front three, we've got some real nostalgia picks here, it's got to be said. Of course, Adebayor, who was a bit of a traitor going to Tottenham, but then for Arsenal this FPL season, 200 points. And then Fernando Torres, of course, didn't quite work out for him at Chelsea, to say the least. Didn't do very well. Of course, did have that amazing moment away to Barcelona with the Gary Neville scream, but then, of course, did have a sitter of a miss away to Manchester United. But for Liverpool, he was an absolute goal machine. 193 FPL points for Fernando Torres. And then, of course, the iconic legend, the, bit of a, FPL nostalgia pick really. Roque Santa Cruz for Blackburn Rovers, 182 FPL points in 07-08. Now moving on to the 08-09 season. In goal was Mark Schwarzer. He did very well for Fulham in that season. 175 FPL points. Man United were the champions once again after the previous campaign once again was Manchester United. So at this point, United were just dominating massively. Now this FPL team would have actually scored less than the previous one. 2,033 FPL points. And yeah, as I said, 175 for Schwarzer. Then a back four of Nemanja Vidic, 187 FPL points. He was, of course, one of the most expensive FPL defenders at one point at 8 million. Then we also had Lescott, 172 FPL points. He kept racking them in for Everton. Then Jamie Carragher again comes in for Liverpool, 161 FPL points. And then we also had a really interesting one with a very, very solid, FPL point total for a defender. Jose Bozingua, when he came in with 156 points. I mean, it was a great season for Bozingua in 08-09 and really did do well in his time there at Chelsea. So that was the back four. Then once again, Gareth Barry is there again with Aston Villa's team. He did very well in 08-09 with a very good 162 FPL points. Ronaldo's there again, yet again, the GOAT. He's there with 206 points. Very did well for Manchester United and for the Premier League. He just lit it up. Then we've got Lampard, 226 FPL points. Chelsea through and through, and he just kept delivering in FPL. Next to him, we've of course got Steven Gerrard, 216 points. I mean, Gerrard was just becoming a joke as well. So Gerrard and Lampard were just amazing FPL options, really. And then, as you can see right there, you can see Dirk Kuyt, the Liverpool man, 193 points in midfield. So he did very well that season as well as Gerrard. Then up top, just the one striker in this 4-5-1. It was Anelka. This was Anelka's season at Chelsea. 179 FPL points in 08-09. Then the next season, finally, a new team winning the Championship title, the Premier League title, I should say. 09-10, it was Chelsea's, and this team would have scored a lot more FPL points, the most we've ever seen so far, 2,167. Then in goal, we had Pepe Reina for Liverpool, 164 FPL points. The back three of Patrice Evra, 168. Then Richard Dunn. Yes, Richard Dunn was in FPL Team of the Season. It seems pretty crazy to say that when you think about how many own goals he scored in his time, particularly in his time at Manchester City. But at Aston Villa, he was just a solid centre-back that got a lot of FPL points for Aston Villa and 158 in that 9-10 season. And then also John Terry for Chelsea, 150 points that season. But midfield four, though, Frankie Lampard, 284 points. Just outrageous number of points that season. Then Fabregas comes up again, 214 points. We've also got James Milner here for Aston Villa, so that's a bit of a nostalgia one. Milner obviously still in the FPL game, playing for Brighton, but that was back when he was at Aston Villa. 184 FPL points for James Milner. Very, very impressive indeed. And then finally, to basically whip it up and finish it up in the midfield, we've got, of course, Florent Malouda for Chelsea, 169 FPL points. Very good year for Chelsea, that. Then we move on to the front three. Didier Drogba, just an absolute joke of a season for a forward, 242 FPL points. There's also there Wayne Rooney, 224 points. And then with 210 points, Carlos Tevez for Manchester City. Now moving on to the next one, it's, of course, 0-10-11 to 10-11 season. The champions, Manchester United. Not a very high scoring season for the total points of this dream team. Only 1,947, so quite surprising. But in terms of the goalkeeper, we had Joe Hart with 175 FPL points. The back three, Leighton Baines for Everton. He became, one of those legends, those Lundstrom type figures, because he was on penalties, he was getting goals. Just a joke, really, a cheat code for a defender. 178 FPL points. We also there had, for Fulham, Hangeland got a lot of FPL points, 154. Then we also have Ashley Cole, 150. The midfield, once again, we've got Dirk Kuyt there with 177 FPL points. And of course, Nani smashed it for Manchester United, the Portuguese, with 198 FPL points in midfield. Charlie Adam did very well for Blackpool, 192 FPL points. And then we've got, once again, Florent Malouda for Chelsea, 186 FPL points. And then the front three, yet again, it's Manchester City's Carlos Tevez, 185 FPL points. Berbatov came in with 176 points for Manchester United. And then again, Didier Drogba, 176 points for Chelsea. Then 11-0-12, this was a bit better of an FPL points total, 2,077, with Man City wrapping up the title in that amazing Aguero season. Because in that season, City were so good defensively. Joe Hart with 166 FPL points, racking up those save points and getting those clean sheets. Then we had Kyle Walker come in for Tottenham with 140 FPL points. Patrice Evra, again, with 159 FPL points. And then Vincent Kompany, of course, ironically, a current Premier League manager, but he did very well for Manchester City in FPL that season. Of course, got a crucial header goal against Manchester United. They thought they'd won the title that game, but of course it went right to the final day. And Aguero moment, what an absolute unbelievable Premier League moment for that City team. The midfield, though, we had a very interesting midfield of Clint Dempsey for Fulham. He was a joke of an FPL option, 209 FPL points, and such a massive overperformer. We didn't expect him to do that well for a team like Fulham, but they were just brilliant. Then Walcott, 169 FPL points, very good season for Arsenal for Theo. David Silva was just so silky for that City team, 184 FPL points. And then Gareth Bale, this was a cheat code for Gareth Bale, because I think he started off in the game as a defender and it was just an absolute joke. Then he moved into midfield and he absolutely smashed the 11-12 season with 195 FPL points. Incredible stuff. Then the front three, Wayne Rooney, 230 FPL points. Van Persie then doing the bits for Arsenal, 269 FPL points. And finally, that man who got the iconic goal that season with the QPR game, 211 FPL points for the debut season for Sergio Kun Aguero, who went on to be an absolute FPL icon. Now, moving on to 2012-13, of course, this time Manchester United wrapped up the title, and it was a much better season for FPL points scoring. 2,154. In goal, yet again, it was Joe Hart with 158 FPL points. At the back, Branislav Ivanovic for Chelsea with 143 FPL points. Leighton Baines comes up again, the absolute legend for our FPL teams, taking penalties. It was just an absolute cheat code. 177 FPL points. Patrice Evra yet again coming up with 152 for Manchester United. Then the midfield five, Santi Cazorla with 205 FPL points for Arsenal. Bale, again, another good season for him, 249. Juan Mata for Chelsea, 212. Walcott for Arsenal, 194. And then Mishu, this was his breakout season. Mishu, unbelievable cheat code because he was really playing as a forward, but he came into the game as a midfielder. So extra point for a goal, extra point for a clean sheet, and 190 FPL points in his debut season was just so much better than anyone could have expected for that 12-13 campaign. And in the front two, we had Luis Suarez with a 212 FPL point total, and Van Persie moving to Manchester United, but 262 FPL points was incredible. Then we move on to 13-14 season. Of course, the champions this time, Manchester City. They took back their crown from their Manchester rivals with 2,189 FPL points this team would have scored, so much higher now. We're getting to the more 2,200 total, and in goal, Tim Howard, 160 points for Everton. Very, very good stuff. Then in the other Everton defence, Leighton Baines with 169 FPL points. Brilliant, brilliant season for him. And talking of Everton defenders, we had an Everton triple up at the back with Seamus Coleman doing very, very well with 180 FPL points. And then finally, John Terry comes up again with 172 for Chelsea. Then in midfield, we had Adam Lallana of Southampton. I think people forget about how good he was this season for Southampton. Possibly that was the reason he moved to Liverpool. 178 FPL points. He really put himself in the shop market. Then Hazard. This was his breakout season for Chelsea. 202 FPL points. And this was where Hazard looked like a real deal. And then Yaya Toure came in with 241 FPL points. Then Gerrard, of course, with 205 FPL points for Liverpool. And the front three was fairly similar to last year, but an addition of Daniel Sturridge for Liverpool with 197 FPL points. And then Suarez, what a season he had in 13-14. An unbelievable game-breaking total of 295 FPL points. And not many players have got as many as that. You know, Mohamed Salah in 17-18, 303. That's the highest anyone's got in an FPL season, but 295 points was a joke of a season for Suarez. Then Rooney, 190 FPL points as well. Very good for him. Now we move on to the 14-15 season. This was, of course, the year that Chelsea took home the title under Mourinho, and 2,031 FPL points. So a bit lower, actually, in terms of the total. But Fabianski was a legend for Swansea in FPL. 151 points this season. Cheap, 4.5, did very well. Then the back three, Ivanovic again, 179 FPL points for Chelsea, as he was partnered with Terry, 177 FPL points. And then Phil Jagielka makes an interesting appearance. This Everton defence did very well in FPL, and Jagielka popped up with a few bolters. Unbelievable strikes, especially that goal at Anfield. 142 FPL points for Phil Jagielka. Midfield, this is how it looked. David Silva back again with 191 FPL points. Yet again, we see Cazorla in there with 168 FPL points. But what a season. What a season this was for Alexis Sanchez. His breakout season at Arsenal, 207 FPL points. Absolute legend. And then an amazing FPL campaign. What a season for Eden Hazard as Chelsea wrapped up the league. He was the talisman. Unbelievable season for him. 233 FPL points. And of course, I mentioned about Harry Kane coming through as a cheap option. This was the season he really did well in FPL. 191 FPL points in that breakthrough season for Tottenham. He was just incredible. Aguero as well. Unbelievable campaign for him. He finished as the league's top scorer that season. But in terms of FPL points, he got 216. And then finally, the budget option that we all loved at QPR, Charlie Austin, 176 FPL points. Now we move on to the next team. 14-15 is done. Now it's the season that Leicester won the league. It was an unbelievable FPL campaign for many. And there was lots of budget options that did much better than we thought. But 2,046 FPL points, so slightly more than the previous season, but not as much as 13-14. And in goal, Petr Cech in his debut season for Arsenal with a lot of save points, 159. Hector Bellerin at the back did very well, 172. Toby Alderweireld did very well in his debut season for Tottenham, 166 FPL points. He popped up with a few goals. And then Lauren Koscielny partnered him at 153 FPL points. Midfield 4 of Andre Ayew was a bit of a cheat code really for FPL that season. His debut FPL campaign for Swansea, really he was playing as more of a forward, but in the game he was classified as a midfielder, so he was an amazing one. 171 FPL points. Ericsson next to him did very well for Tottenham that season. It's got to be said, 178 points. And then Ozil for Arsenal. Mesut Ozil was the creative legend and's got lots of goals, lots of assists. 200 FPL points was just unbelievable, really. But then, if you thought that was getting good, how about a cheap, it was something like 5 million, I think, or maybe even 5.5. But what a bargain, because of course we never would have known that Leicester would go on to win the league. But Riyad Mahrez with an unbelievable 240 FPL points for that price was just an absolute mockery, and we couldn't have seen it coming, but he just did so well. I mean, he had done quite well for Leicester in the previous 14-15 campaign, but he just took it up another 50 million levels with Leicester winning the title and Mahrez being that absolute hidden gem. Then, of course, talking of hidden gems for Leicester, Jamie Vardy with an unbelievable FPL season. He had scored some goals in the previous campaign, as I mentioned, with Mahrez, when Leicester made that great escape under Nigel Pearson. But what a season Jamie Vardy had. I mean, 11 games in a row he scored, and at 211 FPL points he scored. And talking of 211, that's exactly how many Harry Kane got in that great FPL season where he wrapped up a lovely goal tally of goals. And I think in that season, if I remember correctly, he did in fact get the FPL most points of the striker along with Vardy, but I'm pretty sure he also got the Premier League Golden Boot in 15-16, because I seem to remember he got a lot of hat-tricks that season, but I could just double check that for you people. But whilst I do, of course, Romelu Lukaku, this was his peak season at Everton, 15-16, he was incredible, 185 points for Lukaku before, some murmurings of maybe he might go elsewhere. But yeah, great season for Romelu Lukaku, doing so well under the management of Roberto Martinez. So yeah, it was really, really good that season. And I've just checked on the top scorer. Yeah, it was Harry Kane. I was right in 15-16. Now we move on to the 16-17 season very quickly. This was, of course, the season that Chelsea wrapped up the title again. But in goal, the legend for our FPL teams was, of course, Tom Heaton. Came in as a cheap goalie for Burnley and got so many save points. But look at that difference in the total points scored by this FPL team. We really have now jumped up a notch. 2,249 FPL points. Loads of FPL points for this team. Now, the back three, Gary Cahill, Marcus Alonso and Azpilicueta. You can tell Chelsea won the league this year because Cahill got a lot of FPL points, 178. Alonso was brilliant. That was his breakout season, getting lots of attacking returns for Chelsea, a lot of goals, 177. He's playing so far forward, taking free kicks sometimes as well. But Azpilicueta, 170 FPL points for him, did very well. And then the midfield five, we've got Eden Hazard, had a pretty underwhelming 15-16 season, but was much, much better in 2016-17 when Chelsea won the league. 224 FPL points was incredible. Then next to him, Dele Alli with a breakout season for Tottenham. I mean, he had a breakout season in 15-16, but he really went up another level in 16-17 with 225 FPL points. I mean, that midfield is just a joke. It's stacked with FPL points, 225 for Ali. Then next to him is partner in crime, Ericsson, 218 FPL points for the Dane. Then Sanchez, 264 FPL points. That, for a midfielder, is unrivaled. So I talked about Sanchez, that breakthrough season in 14-15, but he absolutely smashed it out of the park in 16-17. I remember that hat-trick away to West Ham, unbelievable. Then, of course, Kevin De Bruyne, in his second season at Man City, really did come in for the clutch, 199 FPL points for the Belgian. And then the front two, Romelu Lukaku, improved on the last season with 224 FPL points. And next to him, another incredible campaign for Harry Kane. He once again wrapped up the Golden Boot, but 221 FPL points for Harry Kane. Wow. Moving on to the 17-18 season, again, a little bit of a strong FPL points total, but not as strong as the previous season, 2,203 points. And this was, of course, the first season of the nearly invincible, the Centurions, I should say, for Manchester City. Pep Guardiola really getting his stuff going at the club. But De Gea had a great FPL season that year. Remember, that was the season that it was a 0-0 Liverpool-Manchester United. De Gea made a great save with his foot to deny Joel Matip from close range. 172 FPL points that season for De Gea. Then defence, back three, Alonso, 165 FPL points. I said about him taking the free kicks. He had an even better season in the previous campaign, but still very good, 165 points. Obviously that goal, remember, away to Tottenham on the very early game for Spurs at Wembley. Then we had Azpilicueta as well, did very well, 175 FPL points. And Otamendi, with a surprise inclusion here, did actually do very well for City, 156 FPL points for Otamendi. Then in midfield, Mahrez is back again, despite not winning the league. Leicester was still very good, and Mahrez was unbelievable, 195 FPL points for him. And of course, a king of FPL was born, Mohamed Salah, his first FPL season, and he gets the record of any FPL player in one season. 303 points was just a joke for a first FPL season, and he's just been FPL royalty since then. Eriksen, 199 FPL points. Sterling, 229 FPL points for Manchester City, and De Bruyne really upped his game from the last season with 209 FPL points for Kevin De Bruyne. And then the front two, we talked about how Leicester had a great season, so did Jamie Vardy, 183 FPL points for him, and then Harry Kane with an absolutely outrageous 217 FPL points. So again, Harry Kane was brilliant. Of course, he wasn't quite the top scorer, that was Mohamed Salah, but still a great season nonetheless for Harry Kane. And yeah, at this point, it was looking like the best FPL premiums were Salah and Kane, because a 303 point total in his first season, this guy was just a joke. He had to be very expensive going into that 18-19 season. So that very much was. But what a season it was for 17-18 FPL. And as I said, amazing season for Mo Salah. 32 goals was just incredible. And then, let's talk about the situation with the 18-19 season now, because this was obviously a big season for points in FPL. And actually, it was the first season I joined FPL and played FPL for the first time. I had a stinker of an FPL season, but I'll tell you who didn't have a stinker of a season. Watford. This was the so-called season we pushed for Europe under Javi Grazia and got to an FA Cup final. It was incredible, but for my FPL team, not very much. I finished with a bad rank, took lots of hits, didn't really know what I was doing, but finished on about 3 million in the world, so not great at all. But talking about this 18-19 season, it was a much higher points tally. I said with the last season it was quite high, but this was even better. 2,332 points, and this was the season of the high-scoring, expensive defenders, those fullbacks getting the points. Trent and Robertson, unbelievable seasons for them, and Alisson with a very good 176 FPL points. With Liverpool, obviously, it does say here Premier League champions Liverpool. I can in fact tell you it was in fact City, so there's a mistake here, but yeah, unbelievable, 2,332 FPL points. Then Trent with 185, Van Dijk 208, and Robertson 213. So yeah, unbelievable FPL season for the Liverpool defence, because 4 defenders in one team is just unbelievable. So yeah, then midfield 5, we had Gylfi Sigurdsson, did very well that season for Everton, 182 points. Then Sterling 234 FPL points, Sadio Mane 231. For Liverpool, Salah had an amazing season, not quite 303, but still incredible, 259 FPL points. And then Hazard, really with his final season at Chelsea, was absolutely unbelievable, 238 FPL points in that Maurizio Sarri era. Then the front two, it was a great FPL season for the first, proper FPL season for Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. I mean, I think he came in that 17-18 season, but the season that Aubameyang really ripped it up was 18-19, 205 FPL points for him, and then Aguero with 201. So 2 very good scorers in the front line for them. Now, looking at the rest of the teams then, we've looked across at the 1920 campaign. This was, of course, an iconic season because it was the year of COVID. So, yeah, ultimately, not a great moment, really. But it was a season where Pope was the man in goal, got loads of save points, and the champions this season was in fact Liverpool after City won it the previous year. But overall points this would have scored 2,263, so slightly less than the 2,332 the previous season, but still very strong. As I say, Pope was a save points magnet, amazing for Burnley, did become a bit of an FPL goalkeeper legend. And would you have it, strangely enough, the exact same back three as the previous season. Trent, Van Dijk, Robertson. Trent with 210 FPL points. This was a fantastic FPL season for him. And, you know, it was very close even to Robertson's previous amazing FPL season. But yeah, Trent, we thought he was good last time. He was even better this season. And of course, did get that amazing 24 points away to Leicester in that season. Then we also have Van Dijk, 181 FPL points. And then Robertson, 178. So, to be honest, not great from the other two, but Trent was just even better. I mean, I know that not great is silly when they got that many points, but compared to their previous season, I mean, Trent, though, went up another level that season. The midfield five, though, in that COVID season, Kevin De Bruyne had a fantastic FPL campaign with a joke of a 251 FPL points. I remember he did so well for people, especially post-lockdown. You know, I remember triple captaining him in that 1920 season. That season I didn't do too well, took lots of hits, finished about 1.3 million. But Kevin De Bruyne, I mean, yeah, he was my triple captain for that return game. I think he had Arsenal at home, and then I think he also had a second fixture in the double game week of game week 30. I think it was at home to Burnley, if I remember rightly. And yeah, got me 45 points on the triple captain after getting 15. And yeah, 251 points was incredible. Then Salah, 233. What a season he had after the previous year, but still great. Then Mane, 221, Sterling, 204, and then Martial with a good season for Manchester United. He was just somehow much better post-lockdown, 200 FPL points. And then Aubameyang, great season for him. Again, he matched last season, 205. And then this was the season, of course, Jamie Vardy finishing the top scorer. He was bringing back the iconic days of 15-16 with a 210 overall points for Jamie Vardy. Now, we're getting to the home stretch now. It's 2020-21. This was, of course, a season like no other, where City did, in fact, take the title back off Liverpool. But it was a season without fans, without anyone in the fans' crowd. So it was a bit of an odd one behind closed doors. But as you can see with the FPL points, maybe that lack of fans did have a factor, because not as many FPL points were scored, maybe not as many goals, we're not quite sure, but it was a weird one. Martinez, though, what a season he had, debut season for Aston Villa. He got so many FPL points, saved penalty on his first game for Villa, of course that home game against Sheffield United. But yeah, it was just an unbelievable campaign for him. 186 points for a goalkeeper is just nothing to sniff at from Emi Martinez. And yeah, so 2,180 points was a bit lower than usual, but some of these players, you think they could have easily scored more, because we talked about the last season with that defence, how good they were. Let's not forget that 1920 season, Lundstram, icon of the game, but also Dallas this season for Leeds was just a joke. He was playing in midfield and he got classified as a defender, and he got an amazing 171 FPL points for a promoted defender. That is incredible. So well done, Stuart Dallas. I mean, yeah, Lundstram was amazing, so was Dallas. Got a few goals that you wouldn't expect, like away to Man City, Stuart Dallas, so he was incredible. Then Robertson had another good FPL season, not quite as good as before, but still solid enough, 161, and Trent with 160. So yeah, this was not the best of seasons really for Liverpool defensively, because they had that 7-2 away to Villa, and they didn't keep as many clean sheets, but they still got attacking returns here and there. Then the midfield four, Bruno Fernandes. This was, of course, his second season. Obviously had a great start to his season in 1920 when he came in the January window, but of course that was only half a season, so didn't make it into the team of the season, but had an amazing FPL campaign in 20 to 21, that is for sure. What a total, 244 FPL points. The Bruno Fernandes train really was on this season. And then Salah in 231 points, great season again. He was just so consistent at that point. It wasn't one of his best seasons after 17-18, but still an incredible season with a total points great, nothing to be sniffed at. Now this was the season as well that Spurs were on a mad one with Son and Kane. I remember they scored 5 at Old Trafford, I think, or it might have even been 6, but Son was getting hat-tricks for days. Of course, that was the season he got that iconic 24-pointer away to Southampton with 4 goals. It was a joke, and yet Harry Kane also got 4 assists, I think. So incredible stuff, really. 228 FPL points for him. And then Sadio Mane, 176. A great FPL season again for him. Then the front three, Vardy was back again with more vengeance, 187 FPL points, despite Leicester not being as amazing as before. They did, unfortunately for them, bottle the Champions League top 4, but still a great FPL season for Jamie Vardy behind closed doors. And then Bamford came through. We didn't think he'd do well at Leeds, but he really did prove the doubters wrong with 194 FPL points for Bamford, and we loved the fact he owned him in his own FPL team himself. Then Kane, of course, had an amazing FPL season in 20 to 21. What a campaign it really was. I mean, he was just so hard to stop and got so many goals for that Tottenham team. And I remember did an amazing last day of the season goal flurry as well. So it ended up being an amazing FPL campaign that Kane took home the Golden Boot, of course, with 23 goals that season. Then we move on to the next season. Of course, it was 2021 to 22. And after City had won the previous season, we were thinking, come on, let's have a new winner of the league. Nope, Man City yet again. And this team scored a lot more FPL points than last time. 2,254 points. And yet again here we see Alisson. Now, the reason we don't pick Alisson in FPL is because there are better Liverpool FPL options to own. So, although he gets points across the season from save points, you're just not going to own him because you'd prefer Trent or Salah or Jota or Darwin or Diaz, for instance. You're not going to own Alisson because he's just too expensive to own as a goalkeeper, when the save points players who are cheaper often get close to Alisson's points. But he did beat everyone else in that season, 176 FPL points. The back four, though, was as follows. Trent with 208, very good season. Cancelo, this was his breakout season, really, for Man City. I mean, he did do quite well in the 20 to 21 season for City, but not quite as well as this season. He was unbelievable for Manchester City, getting those assists, getting those goals, 201 FPL points for him. Then Robertson had another good FPL season, 186 points, and Van Dijk 183. Did pop up with quite a few set-piece goals. The midfield five, though, was just unbelievably stacked, because we had Mohamed Salah with another fantastic FPL season, and probably after the 17-18 season, his second best FPL season, because he was just a joke every single week. We had him perma-captain every week because he was scoring hat-tricks away to Manchester United. He was scoring worldies at home to City. He was just fixture-proof. He was just a joke. Not that he was not a joke every other FPL campaign, because he's been so consistent, but this season was unbelievable for Mohamed Salah. Then Son, a breakout season for him. I mean, he was good in 20 to 21, but 21 to 22, unbelievable. Shared the Golden Boot with Mohamed Salah. And yeah, it was just a joke, really. So good in that season where Conte came in the second half of the season. He was just so impressive. 258 FPL points for Heung-min Son. And then, of course, Bowen, his breakout season for West Ham. Incredible stuff, really. West Ham did so well with Bowen. And Bowen, 206 points, exceeded all expectations. Really good season for him. Did have a big drop-off, though, in the next season. Then Kevin De Bruyne had a very strong season yet again, 196 FPL points. And then Sadio Mane there with his farewell season at Liverpool, 183 FPL points for Sadio Mane. And then the front one, the only one, Harry Kane, Mr. Consistent, 192 FPL points for him. But of course, Son and Salah took home the Golden Boot. And now we get to the final team to keep you up to date. As I say, that was 2,254. So what are we saying for the total points of this team? Well, to be honest, I have no clue, but I will Google it for you people. But this was the dream team of FPL's 2023-24 season. I mean, it was incredible, really. The fact that some of these players you just never would have put in the team of the season at the start of the campaign, but they did really well. So yeah, really impressive. David Raya, 4.5. Got so many save points in that 22-23 season for Brentford. Really was just a joke of a value goalkeeper. And then he got himself 166 FPL points. Then we had Trippier, had a very good campaign for Newcastle, it's got to be said. I mean, Trippier was just incredible, and he was just such a great value option. I mean, we knew he'd done well at Tottenham before, but he came in at the game after getting a couple goals in the previous season for Newcastle, got a few free kick goals, but he came in at a 5.0 price, which was quite tempting. And Newcastle, had the takeover, so they thought they were going to do better under the new ownership. But Trippier just exceeded all FPL expectations because we thought it'd be good, but he was absolutely incredible. Did drop off the second half of the season, admittedly. Wasn't quite as good as we thought in that regard. But at the end of the day, it was still very, very decent indeed. And I'm just having a little look as well. With the 22-23 FPL team of the season, that team of the season would have scored you, if you'd have had that season, you would have got, I'm pretty sure, 2,322. So yeah, 2-3-2-2, which was actually not actually it was more than the previous season. So yeah, it's quite a lot to be fair, which is quite interesting. But yeah, going back to Trippier, he was just incredible and a real legend to own. Although, hang on, I say that. Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure of that. Yeah, so I've just had a little look as well. People have put Ben Mee in there, but I think Trent did actually get more FPL points. So whether or not Mee was in there ahead of Trent, I can't remember. But I think this was the team of the season. So yeah, no, I'm pretty confident with that total that I said. I don't think it was 2-5-1-10. I think it was 2-3-2-2. I can just 100% double check that again, but I'm not quite 100% sure on that. So just bear with me with that. But yeah, it was incredible, really. I mean, the overall points, the overall season of Newcastle was incredible. So yeah, Trippier came in with a great FPL season. I mean, and then next to him, Trent is back there again. He's just an FPL regular, really, at this point. 156 FPL points. And then White also getting 156. Then we had Salah, great season, 239. Odegaard, 212. Rashford, 205. Saka, 202. Martinelli, 196, is that? Or possibly 198, I can't quite tell. And then Haaland was a joke in his FPL's first season. 272 FPL points, getting near to that amazing season from Van Persie that we talked about earlier. But not quite, and not quite the 303 of Salah. But it was enough for Haaland to get himself in the overall FPL team of the history, and then Kane get a very good season. He had 263 points, so only 9 points off Erling Haaland, and he came in, obviously Kane came in at 11.5, and so did Haaland. So really, when Haaland was amazing, so was Kane, but it was just one of those things. I think Kane might have even come actually at 12 million, but I'm not quite sure. So yeah, ultimately it was interesting, but that was the overall total points dream team. Friedel in there with 187, Trent with 210, Van Dijk 208, Robertson 213, Salah 303, Lampard 284, Ronaldo 283, Sanchez 264, Suarez 295, Haaland 272 with that last FPL season, and then Henry 271. So the best FPL asset of all time when you look at how many times they were in the team of the season. Harry Kane 7 times, but now he's left us to go to Bayern Munich. So yeah, I hope you have enjoyed. I know that was a long one, but I thought I'd get out a nice nostalgia video. I'll see you next one. Bye-bye. Let's see what we do next time.